Hello guys, welcome to the channel, MCFC Connect of course. I'm here today with my dad doing a review on City's past January, which has been a relatively successful month for City. We'll start with the Huddersfield game. That obviously saw the return of Kevin De Bruyne and just a great performance from City, and just ended up being quite entertaining for the Blues. We're going to get into all that good stuff, what we thought was great from City and all that, but like I just mentioned, we'll start off with the Huddersfield game. I got some statistics here. We had Phil Foden who got 2 goals, Alvarez scored, Doku scored, there was an own goal by another player, but like I said, we also saw Kevin De Bruyne's return. You obviously did a watch along on the channel for this game, Dad.
I did, yeah.
What was your thoughts on this performance?
I thought the performance was excellent, and when KDB came on, what a change! It was just fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought he'd be rusty, not necessarily match fit, but match performance fit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But he was sublime. He was absolutely sublime. For me, KDB is probably our best player, and maybe our best player of all time.
Yeah.
I love him. I think he's just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree that he's probably our best player, because I don't think there's anyone that can do what he can, and I do agree that maybe when he retires, he'll definitely... I think he already is in that conversation for City's greatest ever player.
Yeah, I think so. Look, there's a massive competition for that accolade, but KDB, since we've had him, since he joined the club, he's just been brilliant. I've got nothing bad to say about him. He gives every game 100%. He has his off days like everybody else, but he's just brilliant.
Yeah, against Burnley the other night, last night, he got an assist, which put him as the
it's the third, isn't it?
Third most Premier League assists in Premier League history.
I think he needs maybe another 8, is it, to beat
Cesc Fabregas.
Cesc Fabregas in number 2 spot.
Yeah.
But a 40 odd, I believe, to beat Giggs.
Yeah.
He's got time to do that. He's still relatively young by comparison.
I mean, yeah, you look at Luka Modric, who's still playing at like 37.
Exactly. I mean, look, if KDB plays until he's, let's say, 34, to be fair, and at the top of his game at that age as well, there's every chance he'll beat Giggs' assist record. And I hope he does, because he deserves it.
Yeah.
He deserves it, and apart from anything else, his behaviour off the pitch is better than the Ryan Giggs, which doesn't do him any favours at all.
Yeah, but the Huddersfield game was just brilliant. We went in as favourites, as you would assume. We were at the Etihad, and we dominated. We had so much of the ball, 84% possession, and 94% pass accuracy. We were all over them that game.
But to be fair, Huddersfield, I thought, gave a fantastic display for who they were, and coming to the Etihad as well.
Before the goals went in, we were struggling to create.
Absolutely.
But then when the goals went in, we managed to set the tone, and eventually Huddersfield did seem to run out of steam. Yeah. I think you saw that in the second half.
Yeah, we did, very much in the second half.
But KDB coming on and just looking so sharp, it was just a great moment. If we had volume on, I suspect we would have heard tons of clapping from the City fans.
Yeah, we would, undoubtedly. The guy is a genius. He's just fantastic.
But Huddersfield really did set the tone for the moment. 5 goals and a draw. 5 goals and none conceded.
Which is brilliant.
We went on to the next round. Probably the most entertaining game of the month for City. Newcastle 2, Man City 3. There was some positives to talk about here. A big one being KDB. But there were negatives as well in this game. So what were your thoughts from what you saw of this game?
I thought it was a very entertaining game, that's for sure. We don't always get entertained to that level. Where Newcastle are concerned, what Eddie Howe has managed to achieve with a relatively low budget by comparison, he's achieved wonders. I like Eddie Howe. I think he's a great manager. I think, like Pep, he's a student of the game. He's a good person manager, man manager, whatever you want to call it. And that shows in Newcastle's performances. So yeah, the game for me was brilliant. It was thrilling, and KDB made, for me, all the difference.
Yeah, Kevin De Bruyne coming off the bench, just stamped his return in the Premier League, scored a lovely goal.
He did.
But also placed that ball brilliantly for Oscar Bob, who, to be fair, finished it very well.
He did, yeah. That was one of the best finishes or assists that I've seen all season.
Yeah, it was great by Oscar Bob to do that. Your first Premier League goal for City as well.
Yeah. And I like Oscar Bob. I think he's got bags of potential.
Yeah.
And I think he's a good future player for us, a regular first team starter. If he listens to Pep, listens to the advice given from the older, maturer players like KDB and stuff like that, he'll come along and he'll be brilliant.
Yeah, but he's getting called up for Norway now as well, first team. So he's definitely doing something right.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, for sure.
A negative that myself, City fans called on in this game was the first half from Kyle Walker. Second half was better, but that was because Newcastle didn't do much. But Kyle Walker lost both his men on Alexander Isak and Gordon, and both of them ended up scoring with the chances he let them have.
That's right. He didn't have a good game, Kyle Walker, and like you quite rightly adhered to, especially in the first half. But I think what we need to keep in mind with Kyle Walker, bless him, his private life is a mess. When that becomes obviously public, he's going to receive a lot of backlash for that. I don't agree with the backlash. We all make mistakes. Some of us worse than others, and that begun to reflect in his game. You could see he was distracted, quite rightly so in many ways. But if he can straighten his private life out and get his game back on track, I like Kyle Walker.
Yeah, and also we said it earlier. This could just be one of those games for Walker. No one has a perfect, a 10 out of 10 performances every single season. You're going to have a bad game, and this could have just been the bad game for Walker.
It could have been, but he's not been as sharp this month as he has been in previous months of the season.
Yeah. But overall, we got the 3 points.
We did.
Which is the important thing against Newcastle in a really tough game because we're at St James's Park. And the moment they took the lead, the crowd would have been up for it. The moment the first goal went in for Newcastle, the crowd probably would have picked themselves up.
Well, with Newcastle, the crowd cheer their team whether they're losing or winning. They've got a very good mentality when it comes to backing their team. You can't say that about every team. Sometimes you can't say that about City fans because last night, for example, with the game yesterday, I was watching the crowd in the first half and they were still. Some clubs you will not get that. United, dare I say it, their 12th man is the crowd and it's very evident, but nobody more so than Liverpool. So City, sometimes the 12th man needs to be more evident and up there, lifting the team.
Newcastle game, it was huge, but got over the line. But now we move on to Man City vs Spurs, second clean sheet of the month, and probably other than Huddersfield game, one of our most dominant performances. Spurs, they saw one shot throughout the whole game. City saw 18 and had 5 on target. I think we dominated Spurs and we got the goal we deserved right at the very end, Nathan Ake. So from what you saw of this game, what did you think to it?
Well, you're obviously aware that I didn't see the whole game. I watched the highlights. from what I saw of the highlights, and I watched the extended highlights, City were brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. We just couldn't get past the keeper, which was quite frustrating. Yeah. But we should have beaten Spurs 3-4, 5-0. But we didn't. We won 1-0, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But our performance was excellent, especially going to their ground as well. So all credit to the team and all credit to the travelling fans.
Yeah, like you say, it's such a difficult one. It's a game people have been speaking about because City are cursed there. Well, we're cursed there because since the stadium was made in 2019, we've gone there to only meet defeat and to only not score any goals, and we broke that curse entirely this game and scored a goal and won the game. Nathan Ake scoring a very late goal and winning us the game and putting us through to the next round of the FA Cup, which is just massive. We'll play Luton next month because of him. And it came from... There was a bit of controversy on the goal, which we'll address because, it's an overall month review.
Mm-hmm.
So basically Diaz is backed into... He's close with Vicario, and then when the ball goes in, Vicario... It's hard to see what goes on because it's so quick. Vicario's suddenly on the floor, and Nathan Ake's got on his boot to the ball, and the ball's in the back of the net. A lot of people talking about this. Some people saying that City have robbed Spurs. City fans and other fans as well. It's not all other rival fans have said that it's a fair goal because of the recent incidents in the Premier League as well. So I was curious to what your thoughts were on the goal.
Well, I go back to what your grandfather said the other day, who's an Evertonian and an ex-goalkeeper. He said that Vicario should have been stronger, should have used his body to get the player out of the way, which is quite legal for him to do that.
Yeah.
He didn't, and what became of it is evident. So it's just a rub of the game, and City deserved the goal anyway, like you quite rightly said earlier. So I think Vicario's got himself to blame, and Spurs have got themselves to blame. I'm not going to say the decision should have gone against City, because I don't believe it should, because the precedents had already been set.
Yeah.
So, which you're fully aware of. So, yeah.
Yeah, Roy Keane said that as well in the where the pundits speak after the game. Roy Keane also mentioned it and said Vicario was nowhere near strong enough there and needs to be at least showing a bit more fight to push Diaz off him. And yeah, for me, the goal should stand because of that whole Burnley-Luton stuff. I've spoken about it enough now. You watch back any of my streams recently after that Spurs game, you will probably hear it and see it. But moving on to last night's performance, Man City versus Burnley, 3-1. Shame we didn't get a clean sheet, conceded a goal right at the very end of the game. It was a shame, but the overall performance was pretty solid. Alvarez, the birthday boy, who's 24 now, got 2 goals, and Rodri scored a goal right at the very beginning of the first half. I think it was less than 30 seconds in. So, what were your thoughts on what you saw of this game?
Well, I saw most of the game. There's many minutes that I missed because of one reason or another. Let's get it right from the off. Vincent Kompany has done wonders with Burnley. You can see his philosophy along similar lines to Pep's. You can see how well he's got them drilled. You can see how the players are getting back when they need to get back. They're defensive. They made a few defensive errors. Any team does, which let them down. But I thought Burnley were very, very good. I thought they could have been a lot more dangerous. Had City been a bit lax, they would have been a lot more dangerous. But City played well. Yeah. And there's no denying that. We played very well. And good luck to Julian Alvarez getting the 2 goals on his birthday. I'd like to have seen him got a hat-trick, but unfortunately that wasn't to be. it was an all-round good performance by City. I just wish the fans, oh God, that first half was so quiet until the goals started going in.
Yeah.
I just wish our fans would be more vocal and more, gritty and get behind the team.
Yeah.
Without sounding boring, in my day, that's what you did. You shouted to the top of your lungs and you really supported your team, no matter what.
Just yelled and yelled.
Yeah. So there we go. But an all-round very good performance by both teams, and City thankfully came out on top.
Yeah, well, we had a Burnley fan in the chat for this game.
Oh, did we?
Night. Yeah.
All right, good.
There was a Burnley fan in the chat. I think their name was like SL Owen. Very sound. They're very chill. And I asked him because me personally, if I was a Burnley fan, I wouldn't be company out. Because I think if Burnley managed to stay up this season, then I think next season they could just be so much better. I think company just needs to survive his first season. And I asked this Burnley fan whether he is company in or company out, and he said that he's company in, which is a strong statement considering that they are, I think, second from bottom. I'll check the league table.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
19th, just 2 points away from bottom. Obviously, it's not been the season that Burnley fans would have hoped to have on their return to the Premier League, but it can potentially be saved because obviously if they pick up results, then that will be a big bit of hope for them. But also, this Burnley fan mentioned that Burnley will need a miracle to stay up, but I mentioned that they could potentially have a miracle because, as you might know, we won't talk about it too much, but Everton and Forest are under a lot of pressure from FFP and are set to be charged again. We'll save our thoughts on that for another video / stream. But they could, both of them, be facing another 10-point deduction. Theoretically, let's say they received one today, and right now Forest would drop down to 10 points, which would put them equal with Sheffield United. Everton would go down to 8 points, which would suddenly put Burnley outside the relegation zone. I still think they'd obviously be in trouble because Everton are playing well this season. They've got the most wins out of between 20th and 12th. And the only reason they're down there is because of that initial charge. They'd be just outside the top 10 if it wasn't for the 10 points they already lost. But it's going to be difficult for Burnley. They've got 16 games to make a difference. I don't think they made too much business in January, but I think the good thing is, if they do get relegated, they'll obviously get a bit of money for going down because Premier League gives them a bit of money, because going down the Premier League can be huge for
revenue-wise. Yeah. It's be a massive makes a massive difference for sure.
So they get given a bit of money for going down anyway, just to help them out. And I think if they do go down, I think Burnley could very well come back up. Like Leicester are leading the charge in the Championship. But overall, I think Burnley showed signs yesterday of what they want to do. And I think if company makes it to the summer and makes it into the Premier League next season, then I think you could really see change at Burnley, bringing in players that they will need. And I think you could see maybe a 14th finish for Burnley if they do stay up next season.
Well, you tell me, if they sacked Company, one, it's going to be they'll undo all the hard work he's achieved with the players today, which was evident on the pitch yesterday. We've already spoken about that. And who are they going to replace him with? With a similar mentality, because you need a mentality of a clever man. Company is a clever man. He's well educated, he's well read, he always pushes himself. You can see that in everything he does. And when he played for us, always he pushes himself, he wants the best. And as a manager, he's the same. To find that kind of passion and that ethos in somebody else is not that easy. So I think if Burnley sacked Company, they'll be digging a big hole for themselves. Company needs to stay with Burnley whether they manage to survive the Premiership or not this season, because like you've already adhered to, if they go down, they'll bounce back up because they've got a man like Company. And they didn't do, I don't believe they did any business in January, I can't remember. But certainly coming up at the beginning of the season with the team they had, which was great in the championship.
Yeah,
the levels between the two, the Premiership and the Championships are extreme. So yeah, I mean, he's not had the time to reinforce his squad with a little bit more quality where needed, and he hasn't. So I personally think if Burnley, at the board of Burnley, have got any sense, they'll keep Company regardless of what happens at the end of the season. And Company, I think, will stay because he's a fighter, and he's not one to walk away.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they should keep him, but overall, great game from City, and shame to lose the clean sheet because that could have been 3 games without any goals conceded this month. But instead, it is 2. But that's not too bad. And that concludes the review of the games. We've had 4 games, 4 wins, 12 goals scored, 3 goals conceded, 2 clean sheets. Can't really argue with that. It's not too bad. But moving on now, what do you think was like the... By the way, guys, sorry for background noises like drilling. That's nothing to do with us. We can't control that. What do you think was the best performance from City this month?
From the games I saw in their entirety, myself personally, I loved, absolutely adored the Newcastle game.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the best performance. But it's difficult. I mean, look, we've got a 5-0, a 3-2, a 1-0 and a 3-1. You know, all performances are good on their own merit, but for me the most enjoyable was the Newcastle game.
Yeah, I think I definitely enjoyed the Newcastle one the most out of, you know, not just because the performance wasn't too bad, but also because it was just drama, wasn't it? You know, City pushing for it late and everything like that. It's just a classic in the Premier League. But for me, I know you didn't get to watch it in its entirety, but I'm going to give it to the Spurs game. You know, we didn't have KDB on the pitch for most of it. We had a bit of a substitute team. It wasn't too bad of a team to be fair. You know, but we had Oscar Bob starting and Ortega in net, things that we normally wouldn't do. And against a Spurs team that was probably the best team they could have put out. You know, they had a standard back line for Spurs. That was a full-strength back line with Porro, Romero, Van der Vaart and Udogie and even Vicario in goal. You know, that is Spurs' best back line. That's the back line everyone's complimented this season when they've all been fit. They even got to bring on Maddison off the bench, like how we got to bring on De Bruyne. So, but I think we dominated them, so I'm going to give it to that. The scoreline might say that it was very tight and all that, but really that's mainly because Spurs' defending wasn't too bad. But we could have won that game by more if we just had our shooting boots on.
Well, I think if I'd watched it in its entirety like yourself, I would have probably been of the same mind. But the Newcastle, for me, I stand by what I said, but I understand why you've chosen the Spurs game for sure.
Yeah. Moving on. Anything that you would like City to improve on going into February?
Our defence still worries me. Defensive errors, you adhere to that with Kyle Walker, have cost City points this season.
Yeah.
A lot of points, and could have cost us more this last month. Fortunately, they haven't. Our defence needs to get its act together. It's not as good as it could be and should be. Other than that, I've got no qualms, complaints. I like the way Pep handles his team. We've got a good forward line. We've got great midfielders at the moment. I'm really excited about the future.
Yeah.
If our players can stay fit.
John Stones back, by the way, starting against Burnley.
I saw him yesterday.
Which is great stuff.
Absolutely.
And as I'm pretty sure you already know, Kanji's also in training. Wasn't on the bench for that game, but he is back training, which is just a positive. I do think that means, touch wood, no one else gets injured and Akanji's training goes fine and he comes back into the team. I think we will have a fully fit squad, which will be for probably the first time since the beginning of the season because of when KDB got injured. So, we just got to hope that squad can stay fit for the most of it, and if they do get injured, it's extremely minor, and the most they missed is one game. But on to the final little topic of this. Not necessarily Premier League, Man City Player of the Month for you.
Oh, that's difficult. That's a real difficult one. Man City Player of the Month for me. I'm going to say it, although a lot of people will disagree with me. Okay, I've got two that spring to mind. Doku.
Yeah.
Doku, I love him. His finishing needs tidying up. His final ball isn't the best sometimes, but my goodness, is he good on the ball. I love him. Absolutely brilliant. But I'm going to have to say De Bruyne. I really am, because his impact, the moment he came on after injury, was sublime. I never expected it. Yeah. Like I've already said, I thought he'd be rusty, but he was sharp, he was lively, I know, it's almost as if he lost 5 years of his life and he's gone back to like a 22, 23-year-old. Yeah. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I'm biased, I love him, I think he's pivotal. So KDB, but a close second, Doku.
Yeah,
I love Doku.
I'm going to go for Kevin De Bruyne as well. I just think he came on, definitely made the difference in one of them. You probably could have made an argument that he made the difference against Tottenham as well, because he whipped in the ball that Nathan Ake eventually got his foot onto, which got us that huge win. And does it even need to be stated for what he did against Newcastle, because that was just phenomenal. It felt almost written in the stars.
Absolutely.
Returned to the Premier League after almost half a year out, and it never looked like he left. No,
this is the thing. Yeah, it was so seamless. It was brilliant. So KDB 100%, and I'm glad we both agree on that one.
Yeah. But that does conclude this month. We've got a big month in February coming up, which we will do a month review tomorrow. A month preview tomorrow. That is with a different guest, but nonetheless, it's still going to be a big one to do, because I'll count the games here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7. Yeah, 7 games this month, which is 3 more than this month. So a lot going on next month. But this month, because we're on it now. It's the 1st of February. So a lot to do and a lot of games to win. Big games as well, like Champions League, Chelsea in there as well, Brentford twice. A lot to digest. But we'll do watch-alongs for it all, we'll do previews for it all, and we'll do reviews for it all, and there'll be tons of content in between that. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you.